Well, hello again. This is Linda Larson Schlitz, and I am so excited to have as my guest today Gina Mead, the amazing veteran that I met in Michigan, who was gracious enough to allow me to come and speak at the Women Veteran Retreat a couple of months ago, and it was just amazing. And I was so blessed to meet her, hear her speak, and she's been in the Navy. She was in the Navy for 6 years, came out, got a bachelor's in criminal justice. Uh, Interesting that Christine, who's going to co facilitate our veterans group, also was in the Navy and also has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And then both of you went on to get your work on your master's. Christine is a counselor, and you have been working in public administration kinds of things, which you are phenomenal at that, Gina. I can't thank you enough for how you coordinated that event and the volunteer work you do, being on the color guard, and so many other things that you do for people, the American Legion, bringing in the Vietnam Wall. Boy, what haven't you done? But I'm so glad to have you here. And you were so instrumental in the women I was blessed enough to work with that have PTSD and other mental health issues. And I'm going to ask you about what we can all do. But first, give us a little background about your experience in the military and your observations and why you're so committed to working with veterans in general, but also specifically the women veterans.
So there, I think for a long time, and I think we're just kind of breaking the plane on women veterans. There's been so many times that women veterans have been overlooked. Whether it be appointments at the VA or it be, out in public. I've had it happen a few times, wearing a veteran shirt and had a guy turn to me and say, "You're a veteran?" Um, so I think now that we're really kind of starting to band together and break that plane, we're finding our footing, and I think that's a huge step in what we're trying to do. The and what they're hoping to do in the outlook of the military in the next 10 or 15 years, women are going to be a big part of that. I mean, they've already crossed boundaries that they've never crossed before. I mean, we've got Rangers and special forces and women that met every challenge that they could to get into these positions, show that they're qualified. And I think we've kind of come a long way in showing that women's mentality really, when it comes down to something, isn't any different than a male's perspective on things. And I think that right there, women find a way, whether they're veterans or civilians, in hard circumstances, they dig deep and they find a way to not only survive whatever they've went through, they find a way to basically grow through what they go through.
Oh,
And
grow
so
through what they go through. I like that. Yeah.
I
Good.
I think I have a shirt that says that, and I think for women, they do find a way to grow through what they go through. And I think, you know in the military, so many things can be tested. I know that right after September 11th, I was stationed overseas. My mom, my parents, everybody back here, we see the events of September 11th and they start to, unwind on our TVs and things. And at that point, my mom and stepdad had no idea about what was going on. I called a neighbor and I said, this is going to sound really stupid, but I need you to go down the house. I need you to knock on the door. I need you to wake my parents up. And then I said, when she gets up, because she was working third shift, when she gets up, I need you guys to turn on the TV. And our neighbors, like, I said, please just do me this favor. I said, I'm calling. There's a reason, I need, I need you guys. Would you please just do this for me? And so, she did as I asked. And I asked my mom after that, what exactly was the energy in the house that day? And she said, I just stood there and bawled.
Yeah.
She said, we knew, watching that whole thing, we knew we were going to war. We
Yeah,
knew anybody and everybody in that whole thing involved, one way or another, was going to be involved. And she said it was absolutely terrifying. And
absolutely.
I said, sometimes there's those that join the military that have a support system, and that support system is everything to them. And I was lucky to have that. Then you have those in the military that don't have any kind of support system, have never had certain experiences. A great story I have of that being stationed in Virginia. I was stationed at an air base, and I had some guys that were good friends of mine on the base. I had them come over for a Christmas party. My mom was in town, and so she put on a Christmas party for them. And we're all sitting around, and she went out and bought everybody a gift. It was just nothing more,
Aw,
than, just something she could wrap up. And it was, I think it was just, box of chocolate covered cherries, but just enough to show them that, hey, look, it's Christmas. And so we were sitting there, and we're all opening our gift, and we noticed that one of my guy in the group, he was kind of almost, I don't even really know how to describe it. He was almost just shocked. And my mom said to him, she said, "Is everything okay?" And he said, "In all the years growing up," he said, "I never got a Christmas present, ever."
wow.
Said if we ever got a present, it was always a family present. He said, "I never got an individual present for Christmas." And he said, "This is the first time I will open a Christmas gift that is mine."
Oh my goodness.
So being in the military allows you to, just as certain types of work and things in the civilian community, it opens you up to different types of um, situations that you wouldn't normally find yourself in. I've truly been blessed in my military service. I have been able to help people overcome the loneliness at the holidays by being able to either stand a watch for them, or, invite them to my apartment, or um, occasionally there was times that I went to somebody else's house, just kind of. So I think the military camaraderie as a group, I think um, I was just truly blessed. I really have no negative from that. We took care of each other. They were
Yeah,
my brothers and sisters, and they still are my brothers and sisters. And
yep,
for the ones that need the help, that's why I do what I do.
yeah.
I we never the or the motto is you never leave someone behind. And to me, just like some of my friends that work run nonprofits now that they're out of the service, the idea is to never leave anybody behind. And so
Absolutely.
I focus on that. And so the women's retreat coming along, the work that was done, team members, volunteers, people coming in to speak, each piece of that makes an impact. And like I said, starting out, I had an opportunity to talk with women and know that I've made a breakthrough. And it might be just one at a time, but to know that somebody's going to go home with a different perspective, and that they're not in that dark place anymore, and they have something to look forward to next year because they're coming back to the retreat. I think that's
Yeah.
huge, because they come in there with, you know, I've had people in the past tell me, you know what, our conversation being here, that was the only thing, it turned it around because it probably saved my life.
Well,
And
the
so,
thing, oh, I'm sorry, go
nope,
ahead.
nope, no, I've been just blessed because God has put people in the right place at the right time. He's put them in my path, or he's put me in their path. And
Yes.
so, I mean, the work that any of us do on this side of things, we couldn't do it alone. We couldn't shoulder it alone. And God is a big part of that, I think.
I totally agree. I mean, I had it's so, and I'm going to get choked up. Um, I have been praying for a lot of years. I've done a lot of work with veterans over the years, but I really wanted to make an online impact with people all over the nation. Didn't really know how. And I connected with JJ Conway, who I have worked with in the past. And all of a sudden, I mean, I wasn't asking to come and speak at your event. And next thing I know, I'm flying to Michigan to spend a whole weekend with you guys. And you were so inspiring that first night, Gina. I was in tears. And then last week, I did two videos. Both of them I talked about you. And I want you to tell us about that 9 minutes. I couldn't remember my ADD. Was it nine? Was it 11? But tell us, where did you get that? And tell us about why we all can be God's faucets of hope to another person.
So I have time to kind of research and things, and occasionally I like to get on Facebook and scroll. And I happened to find that scenario on Facebook. It was a conversation between two gentlemen. It didn't indicate in that conversation whether they were veterans or not. And what had happened is one uh, gentleman had gotten in touch with the other gentleman, and he's like, "Hey, do you have a second?" Well, in the process of an everyday busy life, the other guy who he reached out to didn't actually either see the message, and by the time that he returned the message and said, "Yeah, I have a minute," he said, "What's up?" The guy's like, "Hey, I was really going through something," and he's like, "I really needed to talk." And the guy goes, "Okay." He said, we got to stop this." He said, "Here's what we all need to do." He's recommendation. He said, "The next time you're going through something," he said, "you text me, I need 8 minutes." And the guy's like, "Okay, I can do that." And he's like, "You text me, I need 8 minutes." He said, "All distractions, radio, kids, TV, wife, everybody." And he said, "I know at that point that you have something on your mind and that it's not just a text to check in and see how I'm doing or talk about the weather, so to speak." I'm using it obviously as an example.
Yeah,
And I think I took away from that and I was like, wow, I thought to myself, 8 minutes. I was like, what happens if I help pass that message? What happens if I help got that message out there? How many of our veterans, if if we just if they didn't need to feel like they were on the spot for 15 minutes, if they just texted each other and said, "Hey, I need 8 minutes, 8 minutes for this mountain that I'm carrying to kind of resolve itself, or to help put a plan together, or to help find the resources that I need in order to make things better and dig deep like I need." And I just thought that was it's so easy in everyday life to get busy with a normal day text or and things like that. But I'm telling you, I told my friends, tell my veterans, the weekend veterans retreat, you text me anytime. You text me and tell me you need 8 minutes. I'm there. I don't care if I'm at work. I'm going to tell the boss I'm taking 8 minutes. Whatever it is in that time frame you need, because we never know how that 8 minutes might impact somebody and how many lives 8 minutes might actually save. Because
absolutely.
there was actually a song on the radio and it was called "The Phone Call." And I don't
Mm.
remember who sang it, but if you go back and listen to that, you just type it in, it's called "The Phone Call." Each scenario that they described in that song was literally, it was seconds for people to make a decision. And some of the decisions that were going to be made were completely life altering. And a phone call came in from a friend or from a loved one or whatever it was, and it stopped that person in their tracks, and it made them feel like, hey, you know what, there's somebody out there, maybe I can look at this differently, and maybe I don't have to do this thing that I was thinking about doing, and that type of thing. And we've lost so many military members, first responders, to suicide, to those dark thoughts. And I just think that we can do better. But
Absolutely.
the right people have to say, you know what, I'm going to get involved.
Yeah, right.
And
And that's the key. I think if we could all just realize, and I know a lot of people have issues with God and religion and all of that, but whoever is up there, if that's all you say is, if there's anybody up there, give me a sign. And I'm telling you, you're going to get a sign if you're open. And for me, that's where the whole thing with meeting JJ, I was praying, God, give me a sign. Who do you want me to contact? And JJ's name came up. And I had been listening to a podcast that said God is going to open the door for you in ways you have no idea. And another video came out yesterday. I've been so emotional. Um, my son-in-law died yesterday, and one of those PTSD things. He burned in a fire, and it's just tragic. But I know so many people go through that. And I just, when I listened to that again this morning, I'm like, I need to do these podcasts. I need to do them now because somebody needs to hear Gina talk. Somebody needs to hear. I said 9 minutes on my videos, so 8 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever it is, give
Yeah,
people some time and
right.
pray. Pray, God, lead me to who you want me to reach out to. Who do you want me to take that call from? Is that number that I don't recognize somebody I need to answer anyway? And sometimes it's just some random person. Sometimes it's somebody that is calling to scam you that you can pray for them literally and say, you know what, I know this is a scam, but I'm going to pray that you can find a real job. I'll even help you find a real job. And surprisingly, some people have responded. So we are an important part. And women veterans commit suicide and have PTSD, they're more successful. I think I saw 5 times more successful than female non-vets because you guys were trained with lethal weapons. And the primary way of suicide for women veterans is by gun. So it's just so sad. And I work a lot with addictions, and that's another thing. What have you seen, Gina, with your comrades coming out? Is alcohol and dependence on pain medication an issue you think with the veteran population?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that dependency is obviously, I mean, for a lot of people, it's a way to self-medicate, something that they can readily get to make the pain or make things go away so that I do believe that that is a huge part of that. I think we're getting better about it. I think
Yeah,
we're seeing more resources. I think community departments of Veterans Affairs are recognizing that there's addiction issues and why that is, and trying to offer more resources. I think we're doing a better job, uh, kind of looking out for one another and doing that buddy check is what they call it. Several services have something called the Battle Buddy, so they pick up the phone and if they know that there's somebody out there that could be needing the help, or they just check on them. I think there's more of that kind of going on a one-to-one type situation, and I veterans are going to be more likely to open up and talk to other veterans. That's just the way of
right.
things. And
Hmm.
so I think other veterans are kind of instinctive, have the instinct that, hey, you know what, talking to you today, you don't sound good. Maybe we need to meet up, or maybe, we didn't need to Zoom, or maybe, I need to call your daughter and have her just, whatever that might be. It was a huge thing, and still is for some of the homeless population for like our Vietnam vets, our even up to our Gulf War vets. I think with them, I've seen a major turnaround in this small community of veteran housing and
Yeah,
getting some of those individuals, those veterans that were transitional, getting them a place of their own, and it inspires almost a sense of pride
yes,
in that, and so they go out to Walmart or they go out to one of the thrift stores and they buy a microwave, and all of a sudden everything they didn't have, they have. And it might just be a 900 square foot piece of, a building, but for them, it's a sense of pride.
right.
In some ways, maybe even for them being back in the barracks, if it was a good experience. But now they have something to hold on to. Now they have something to invest in. And I think when we give them those pieces, the impact and investment, I think we are surely turning things around slowly, but surely turning those things around.
Yeah.
And um,
Yes.
I think I think the peer on peer piece of that, knowing each other, knowing those that we serve with, is truly the biggest part of that, though, because
I,
then
yep. I
our
agree
veterans
with
don't have
you.
to be
I'm sorry. You
sorry,
got
our
it right.
veterans don't have to be the strangers at that point, and then they can actually talk to somebody they might have been in that foxhole with or been on that wall with. And so, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, no, we've got a lag in our system here, but one thing along those lines is that it was a huge concern to me when one of the vets at the retreat that I was at had told me that she had tried calling the veterans hotline and nobody answered, and she called back several times, and we'll call you back, and she never got a call back. And that's really concerning. I don't know if they've improved that or not, but that's all the more reason why I'm working with some vets to start this support group that is even outside of the VA. The other reason is that even at the retreat, I had one lady say, well, I don't really consider myself a veteran really because I wasn't in combat. And that always shocks me that there are lots of veterans that feel that way. But where would we be if you wouldn't have signed up and you got called to war? We need everybody.
We
So
do.
it is really important. And that's the other thing. If you're a veteran and you don't feel you have a purpose, please join our support group. It would be fine with me if I can step out at some point and just have it female veterans. But I want to at least get the ball rolling for you ladies who are struggling and or who need a place to serve. Either one, because we can all benefit from camaraderie and support. So I am so grateful, Gina, that you were willing to join me and be a part of this. You've done so much for so many, and we all have opportunities to do that. But God, I don't have any doubt, has brought us together. I've already got some women signed up to come next week or next year that want to go, that are saying, yeah, can I ride with? And that'll be awesome. So I'll be looking
I
forward to it.
can't wait. I love the new faces. I love what and the team. Like I said, the team is just amazing. They make everything work, and it's just truly a weekend where we can walk away and go, wow, the healing needed to come. I just didn't know it was going to come out like this. So.
It was fantastic, and it's going to go on forever because some of the women have reached out and just said, yeah, I'm over the hump now of that trauma, that sitting in that darkness, finally being able to put some of that trauma behind. So, and many people had it before they went into the military, escaped into the military to get out of it. So, you've got more than one thing to deal with.
Mhm.
So, we are whole people. We have mind, body, spirit, all these different parts of us, and we've got to work together to be all that we're meant to be, that God created us for. So, thank you so much, Gina. I really appreciate it and can't wait to spend more time with you and see you on a Sunday night. That would be great.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you on your podcast, and I hope you have a great holiday. Hopefully, we'll talk before then. But for your listeners and everything, I hope they have a great holiday. And the only message I'd like to leave you with is if you're struggling during the holidays, don't hesitate to reach out to someone. I mean,
Yes.
somebody's going to be there to listen. If it's Linda or one of her counterparts, come to the group next week. If you struggle, if you know that you struggle during the holidays, come sit with us and see if we can find a way to help you.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Gina. God bless.